You are listening to Theoretical Insights of D&D.
Lord, give me a fireball!
Screw how hot your skin is, my bars are hotter. Let me tell you what this is. Let me tell you, you listeners, if you don't know what the zombie has packing in his decaying flesh. You shut up, cancer bones. You gonna be a zombie if that cancer doesn't get cured.
Hey guys, this is Rob and welcome back to Theoretical Insights of D&D. Now, today we're going to go over the top, let's see how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, the top 12 monsters of CR1. Today we've got a new celebrity list as far as a cool factor goes, and I'll run over that real quick. We got at number 1, the lowest, Kevin Spacey, for reasons that I probably shouldn't explain. Number 2, Paris Hilton. 3, Sarah Palin. 4, Dwayne Johnson. 5, Bryce Dallas Howard. 6, Chris Rock. 7, Elijah Wood. 8, Chris Pratt. 9, Tim Curry. And 10, Denzel Washington. So, we'll be using that list to rank these as we have in the last 2 episodes. And let's get started with this animated armor. So, just about any time you talk about animated anything, it starts to get kind of interesting to begin with. This specifically is considered a medium construct, and it has no alignment, whether it be good, evil, neutral, whatever. Now, starting off at an 18 armor class, which is really good for CR1. That's going to be up there by the time you're, having a decent fight against this thing. That's going to be pretty much there with your fighter, your paladin, anything that might be able to wear heavy armor if they've got a shield with them. Because as you know, the chainmail only gets a AC of 16, 18 with a shield. Now it's got a hit points of 33. It's not too bad. However, it's suffering in the speed department at 25 feet of movement. So it's around there with a goblin or a halfling, one of the smaller races. Now it is immune to poison and psychic. Makes sense. But it also has immunities to blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned. Because it makes sense. It's a piece of armor that's been animated. Now, however, it's got a blind sight of 60 feet. But it's blind beyond that radius. So it's not going to be able to see past 60 feet, but it's going to see just about anything within that 60 feet radius. Now, it also has what's called anti-magic susceptibility. The armor is incapacitated while in the area of an anti-magic field. If targeted by a dispel magic, the armor must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against the caster's spell, save DC, or fall unconscious for 1 minute. Now, that's not destroying it entirely. It's not removing the magic from the item as a whole. It's putting it down for 1 minute. It's giving it the opportunity to be able to come back up later. Now, this is probably put in by the developers of D&D as a way of saying, hey, you can't cast Dispel Magic on this armor and then put it on, So once that 1 minute goes by, it's coming back up. And it also has the false appearance like most other animated armors or weapons or anything like that, to where when it remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from a normal suit of armor. So if the DM's wanting to put this up against his party, they walk into an old armory that's been abandoned, this is the perfect place to use it. Because it can blend well with the environment and it can lead into a fight that they have no idea is coming. Now, it is CR1, so this makes 2 attacks per action. And it's slam attack. It's a +4 to hit, and it does 1d6 plus 2 bludgeoning damage. Not exactly the most damage. By this point, I would say you'd probably be, for multiple 3rd level, I would guess, as a character. Nobody's going to have a 2nd attack per action. However, this thing is not going to be doing any more damage than a barbarian or a fighter or a paladin that's using a great axe or a great sword. So there is that advantage there. It's there and it's good. It's not overpowered. It's not weak by any means. Of course, unless somebody casts dispel magic on it and then walks away, because that's possible. Now, on the cool factor, we have to think about this. This is a floating piece of armor hovering through the atmosphere that can hide in the shadows or in plain sight and just sit there and wait for the people to walk past them and then rise and attack. And I like the idea of almost guerrilla warfare, where you're sitting there to where it should be seen, but it can't be seen. And it shows up when you least expect it. So I think I'm going to rate it somewhere around Dwayne Johnson, Bryce Dallas Howard, 4 or 5. It's not overly cool, but you appreciate it. It's there when you're wanting something to really fill a void, and it does a good job of doing so. Now, next up, we have the Boneless. This is something that was a bit weird to look at. The picture on the bestiary that I use on my phone is literally just a skinwalker. No bones, just skin floating through. It's kind of disgusting to look at, but it is what it is right now. But it's got an armor class of 12 with 26 hit points and a movement speed of 30 feet. That's not bad stats. However, you come down and it's got a +4 to its stealth. Now, obviously, that's probably going to be because of the compression ability that I'll cover in a second. Now, it also has resistance to bludgeoning and poison. It makes sense for the bludgeoning, especially since you look at a skeleton or anything like that has a vulnerability to bludgeoning damage. With this having no bones, sure. The condition immunities are Charmed, Exhaustion, and Frightened. Has a dark vision of 60 feet and a passive perception of 10, so it's kind of on the same level as about a first or second level character with that passive perception. Now, it understands the language that it knew in life, but it can't speak. Now, that compression that I mentioned earlier, the Boneless can move through any opening at least 1 inch wide without squeezing. It can also spit into a space that a tiny creature could fit. It's, like I said, it's disgusting to look at. Just imagine if somebody had been skinned alive and their skin just started sliding around all over the place. That's a Boneless. And it's also got unusual nature to where the Boneless does not require sleep. Huh, go figure. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting into the actions. It's got a multi-attack with 2 slam actions, and if both attacks hit a large or smaller creature, it's grappled. The escape is a DC of 13, and the Boneless can use the Crushing Embrace. So the slam is a +5 to hit, and it's 1d4 plus 3, so it's really not going to be doing that much damage. It's 2d4 plus 6. However, the Crushing Embrace, if it does happen to be able to hit both attacks, the Boneless wraps its body around the larger, smaller creature grappled by it. When the Boneless is attached, the target is blinded and is unable to breathe. The target must succeed on a 13 strength saving throw at the start of each of the Boneless's turns, or take 5 or 1d4 plus 3 bludgeoning damage. If something moves the target, the Boneless moves with it. The Boneless can detach itself by spending 5 feet of its movement. A creature, including the target, can use its action to try to detach the Boneless and force it to move into the nearest unoccupied space, and doing so with a successful 13 strength check. When the Boneless dies, it detaches from any creature that it's attached to. So this is, I don't know if anybody else has watched any of Invincible on Amazon Prime. Spoilers if you haven't, stop listening. So, I think it was like maybe the first or second episode, Omni-Man goes back into the headquarters of all the other heroes, and he decides that he's going to wipe the floor with them. And that he does. But there's a guy there, I don't remember his name or what they called him in the show. However, he had the ability of pretty much Mr. Incredible, who was able to stretch and conform himself to any kind of shape. And at one point, he completely wrapped Omni-Man entirely from shoulders to feet and held him there while everybody else came and pounded him in the face with like a mace fist. I want to say somebody tried to use a batarang and he got his face caved in, but you know, it is what it is. It's pretty much that. This guy has the ability to be able to completely surround somebody and keep them locked down into a certain area for however long he can, if they continue to fail that saving throw. Coolness factor, I mean, let's be honest here. It's pretty dang cool. This is something that, like the animated armor, could really sneak up on somebody. And unlike the animated armor, it has the ability to really control the flow of the battle if things go its way, right? So I think I'm gonna. I think it's a number 6. Number 6. Chris Rock. It's pretty cool. Not overly cool, but pretty cool. Next, let's go over the Bronze Scout. Now, this is another construct, but the picture is, well, it's kind of a mix between a centipede, the mandibles of a crab's claw that's turned into a head, and a couple of like praying mantis arms with a stinger on the back. But it's all made out of metal, and it's bronze. So it's only got an AC of 13, which seems kind of low seeing as how it's made out of bronze, but bronze isn't exactly known for being a hard metal, so sure. And it's only got 18 hit points. It's got a 30 movement for speed, however, it's got 30 feet of burrow movement. So it's got a good way of getting in and out. Now, here's the interesting part. It's got a +6 to perception and a +7 to stealth. So it can really sneak up on somebody. The first 3 being pretty sneaky was not intentional. Now, it's got immunity to poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't adamantine. That's pretty strong. Now, your wizard, sorcerer, warlock, paladin, bard, anybody that's got the ability to cast some kind of elemental spell, say firebolt, fireball, call lightning, lightning bolt, anything like that, is still going to be able to do max damage. But that bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't adamantine is pretty strong. Now, it's immune to charmed, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poison. Has a dark vision of 60 feet and a passive perception of 16. That's kind of high, specifically for a construct that looks like, well, a bug. It understands one language of the creator, but it cannot speak. Now, this has an ability called Earth Armor, and the Bronze Scout doesn't provoke opportunity attack when it burrows. So it can come up, smack you, and then burrow away, and you can't hit it. That's kind of dumb, if you really think about it. It comes up, bites your ankle, and then burrows away because it's a little annoying chihuahua. Oh, and it also has magical resistance to where it has advantage on saving throws against spells and other effects. So remember what I said about that fireball and lightning bolt where, you know, both spells that it's having to make a dexterity saving throw? Guess what? It's got advantage. Now I see why they only gave it an AC of 13 and 18 hit points, because if they had made it any tougher, this would have been a real pain in the butt. Now, its actions, it's got a bite, which is 1d4 plus 3 piercing damage and 1d6 lightning damage, which is +5 to hit. It also has lightning flare, and it recharges after a short or long rest, which is interesting. I'm guessing that this is something that you could have as a companion if your DM allowed it. So each creature in contact with the ground within 15 feet of the Bronze Scout must make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw or take 4d6 lightning damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. So wait a minute. What? This thing, as an action, can cause everybody within 15 feet of itself, if they fail, whether they fail or not, right? They have to make a dexterity saving throw or take 4d6 lightning damage just for being too close to it. That's pretty good. Not gonna lie, I kind of wish I'd seen this thing whenever my group was in a couple of the dungeons that I took them through. That's pretty good. I ain't gonna lie, this thing's cool as can possibly be. I'm gonna name it around a Chris Pratt number 8. This is something that I would definitely use in my campaign, and heck, it might show up eventually. I don't know. We'll see how it goes over the next few sessions. Next up, we've got the choker. And no, I'm not talking about the necklace that a few people wear. I'm talking about the aberration, which looks like an alien who lost a bet. Yeah, he's not pretty to look at. He's got an armor class of 16 and only 13 HP, but there's a reason for that. The choker can take an extra action on its turn, and it recharges after a short or long rest. Yeah, you heard that right. It can take an extra action. Not multi-attack or anything like that. It's an extra action. It can multi-attack as an action and then have another action. So it's pretty much got a once per long or short rest haste spell active on it, which doesn't affect its movement or anything like that. Also, it is boneless, so the choker can move through and occupy a space as narrow as 4 inches wide without squeezing, because that's exactly what it needed. It also has spider climb, so the choker can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check. This is setting up for like a horror campaign. It would really fit in a horror campaign, wouldn't it? Wow, you go in and let's brainstorm this for a second. You're playing in a game, and the DM is you're wanting to run a game, and you're trying to come up with something that's extraterrestrial, something around aberrations, and you find this guy. So, 4 ne'er-thee-wells, just regular people that are in a small town or village, which is under an invasion right now, or was, but they were out of town. So they come back home, and they eventually find their way back to this place, and the town has been taken over by these things. However, they're not out in the open, and they're clinging to the ceiling, waiting for somebody to walk in. That's spooky. Now, like I said earlier, it does have multi-attack where it makes 2 tentacle attacks. It's a +5 to hit, but the reach is 10 feet. It does 1d4 plus 3 damage, and if the target is large or smaller, it's grappled with an escape of DC 15. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained, and the choker can't use this tentacle on another target. The choker has 2 tentacles. If this attack is a critical, the target also can't breathe or speak until the grapple ends. I like that little bit of a detail, though. On a critical hit, it wraps your face in its maw, right? It reaches out and does just the iron claw to your face. You can't breathe, you can't speak, you're screwed, pretty much. I like that little bit of a detail that they put in with it. And it is a freaky looking thing, I'll be honest. If you have not seen a choker, D&D, go to Google and look up D&D 5e choker. It's weird. I mean, realistically, like I've said before, I'm not really into the aberration things from D&D. Now, I don't necessarily have anything against aberrations. It's just I don't enjoy them as much as I do beasts. You know, the stuff that you can actually somewhat meet in real life. You know, the wolves and dire wolves and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Like, I'm not going to knock it or anything, but I don't think it'd be higher than about a number 5. Honestly, I don't see it being above number 5. But I do know something that will be probably pretty well above that, and that's our next one in the Copper Dragon Wyrmling. AC of 16 and 22 hit points. Now, this is where it gets hairy, although it doesn't have any hair. A 30 feet movement speed with a 60-foot flying speed and a 30-foot climbing speed. This thing is mobile. And as Jeremiah and I have said in the past, mobility is key to combat. You can have extremely high damaging weapons and have the ability to smack an ancient dragon out of the air, but if you can't get close, it's not going to do you any good. And that's one thing that this thing is absolutely excelling at, is the ability to move around the battlefield and to do so quickly. Now, it's got a perception of +4 and a stealth of +3, and the saving throws are +3 to Dex, Con, and Charisma, and a +2 to Wisdom. It's got blind sight for 10 feet, 60 foot of dark vision, and a passive perception of 14, and it is completely immune to acid damage. Also, it speaks Draconic. Now, its bite is a +4 to hit with 1d10 +2 piercing damage. And it's also got a breath weapon. It's got 2 options for this. It's got an acid breath where it inhales. Inhales. Yeah, it's going to inhale its own acid. It exhales acid in a 20-foot line that is 5 feet wide. Each creature in that line must make a DC 11 dexterity saving throw or take 4d8 acid damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. That's pretty good. I mean, let's be honest, that's really good. That's half the damage of a fireball or a lightning bolt, just as the 46 lightning damage from the bronze scout. Now, its slowing breath, on the other hand, the dragon exhales gas in a 15-foot cone, and each creature in that area must succeed on a DC 11 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature cannot use reactions, its speed is halved, and it can't take more than 1 attack on its turn. In addition, the creature can either use an action or a bonus action, but not both. These effects last for 1 minute. The creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself with a successful save. It has the ability to breathe out in a 15-foot cone and affect multiple people, the slow spell. What? I mean, this is cool as can possibly be. I mean, number one, it's a copper dragon, pretty much. It is an adolescent copper dragon. Specifically, like I'll just scroll down, I'm just finding this out now. A Wyrmling is a medium-sized creature, and that means it is a 5-year-old or younger dragon. Yeah. For all of you who have killed copper Wyrmlings or any kind of Wyrmling in the past, you're killing a kid. Think about that for a second. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'll let you soak in your misery right now. But no, this thing is cool as can possibly be. This is going to be up there with Denzel Washington. There's nowhere else to put it. There's absolutely nowhere else to put it. We're moving on to another one that is near and dear to my own heart because it got me through some of the earlier moments of my own campaign when I first started running it. And as a quick description for the Death Dog, a Death Dog is an ugly two-headed hound. If I got English. A Death Dog is an ugly two-headed hound that roams plains, deserts, and the Underdark. Hate burns in a Death Dog's heart, and a taste for humanoid flesh drives it to attack travelers and explorers. Death Dog saliva carries a foul disease that causes a victim's flesh to slowly rot off the bone. Okay. But here's the thing, though. It's really not ugly. Like, the head on the left is ugly, but the head on the right just looks like somebody that's made a dog really, really mad. You know, it's true what they say. It's not always about what kind of dog it is. It's about how they're raised, okay? Guaranteed. Well, no, I can't guarantee anything. But I have a feeling that if you were to get a Death Dog in your game and raise it properly, the thing would probably turn out fine. If you don't believe me, try it. Let me know how it turns out. And if it bites you in the leg and you wind up having to get it amputated later in the game, don't at me. Okay? So this thing has an armor class of 12, but it's got 39 hit points. It's the largest amount of hit points we've seen so far. and it's got a movement speed of 40 feet, so it's pretty mobile itself. Not quite as much as the Copper Dragon Wyrmling, but this thing can get around. Now, it's got a perception of +5 and a +4 to stealth. This is the kicker. It's dark vision of 120 feet. Yeah, you remember that part about it liking to roam around the Underdark? 120 feet of dark vision will help out a lot with that. It's also got a passive perception of 15, so it's not exactly easy to sneak around either. Also, with it being two-headed, the dog has advantage on wisdom or perception checks, and saving throws against being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, stunned, or knocked unconscious. That's cool. Now, because it has two heads, it can make 2 bite attacks. Now, here's where it gets dangerous for anybody facing one, specifically lower-level characters. They're only a +4 to hit, and it's only 1d6 +2 damage. However, you have to succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw against disease or become poisoned until the disease is cured. Every 24 hours that elapses, the creature must repeat the saving throw, reducing its hit point maximum by 5 or 1d10 on a failure. This reduction lasts until the disease is cured. The creature dies if the disease reduces its hit point to maximum to 0. It's not a, you fall unconscious and you're going to have the cleric roll over there and you're going to have them cast Cure Wounds or something like that. No, you're dead. That's just that. You're dead. It reduces you to 0. You are dead. Get a new character sheet. Roll up a new character. This is why it's important to have somebody in the party that has lesser restoration. Anything like that. This can get extremely dangerous, especially if you run into one of these guys at a low level, like maybe 1st, 2nd, or 3rd level. Obviously not going to be too much of an issue for any of the martial classes, but any kind of the half-casters or casters that didn't roll well for their constitution and do not have a good constitution saving throw, this could take them out. Because lesser restoration, if you don't have anybody that knows that spell, they're screwed. Because if the DM does not want to rule it that it's reduced by 5 and is instead by 1d10, that could take out the wizard in 1 day. Or the sorcerer. 1 day after being bitten by a death dog on the left ankle, and Ragnar died. He just dropped dead. He was sitting there laughing, telling a joke 1 second, didn't even get to finish the joke, didn't get to say the punchline at all. He just fell over dead. Like that guy from The Princess Bride. Great movie. This thing's cool as can possibly be. Especially if you were able to get one that was tamed. Now, I know there are a lot of DMs out there that like to put exotic animals in their games as a companion for their players. This should be one of them. Because as you go throughout the game, it's going to be pretty strong in the lower levels. But if you're at, 7th, 8th level, when you meet this guy as a puppy, you raise him up, you start fighting with him around 10th level, you're going to be protecting him. And it's just a really cool companion. Especially if you have something, now it's considered a monstrosity. But if the DM were to give you a way of speaking to this guy, right? Something like speak with animals, and just say that he allows that spell to work for it because of it being somewhat domesticated. You could carry on 2 separate conversations with the same creature because it's got the 2 heads and 2 completely different personalities. And because of that along with the rotting foot, this guy's going to get a number 7. That's at least a 7. Elijah Wood. He's as cool as Frodo. Dang, maybe Frodo could have really used one of these guys to go to Mordor with. Next up is another dragon Wyrmling. Except this is the deep dragon Wyrmling. So it's got a 15 AC and 27 hit points. Here's where it's got a little bit more movement than the copper dragon. Specifically, it's got a 30 foot of movement on the ground, 60 foot of flying speed, 30 foot swim speed, and a burrow speed of 15. Saving throws are con, whiz, and charisma a +3, and dexterity a +2. It's got a +3 to perception and persuasion, and a +4 to the stealth. Now, its damage resistances are poison and psychic, and that's a really interesting combo to see. Now, it's immune to charmed, frightened, and poisoned. Has blind sight of 10 foot, dark vision of 90, and a passive perception of 13. So you could realistically sneak by this guy, except for maybe the blind sight being an issue. Now, its bite attack is a +4 to hit and only does 1d10 +2 piercing damage. That's not a whole lot of damage. However, it's got what's called a nightmare breath. It exhales a cloud of spores in a 15-foot cone, and each creature in that area must make a DC 11 Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 1d10 psychic damage and is frightened of the dragon for 1 minute. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage with no additional effects. A frightened creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. Here's the thing. It was setting itself up to be a really cool creature and a somewhat powerful creature there at the beginning with all that different kind of movement, a decent health pool, an okay AC, and then its saving throw on the weapon or the breath weapon is 11. That's just, it's weak, is what it is. It is completely separate from the Copper Dragon Wyrmling. This thing could not stand up against that. And because of that, it's getting, wow, I'm ranking this at number 2. That's actually pretty disappointing. It's got a little bit more movement, which saves it from ranking at number 1 with Kevin Spacey. So it's going to get a number 2 with Paris Hilton. We're going to move right along after that disappointment on that, ending on a bit of a bombshell of disappointment there, to the Ghoul. I'm going to shorten the list a little bit to where this episode is not too long, because doing this alone, I know you guys are going to get bored. Maybe. Possibly. Either way, the Ghoul. So, it's got a AC of 12 with a 22 hit points health pool and a speed of 30 feet. Now, this is not the Ghast. Oftentimes, I got the Ghast and the Ghoul completely, mixed up with each other. This is the Undead. This is the medium Undead. So it's immune to poison damage and is also immune to charmed, exhaustion, and poisoned. Hence the, being immune to poison. It's got dark vision of 60 feet and a passive perception of 10. So realistically, you could sneak up on this guy, no issue. This is where it gets a little hairy. Its bite attack is only a +2 to hit, and it's a 5-foot reach, but it does 2d6 +2 piercing damage. That's a lot of damage for a bite. It's like this dude's got the jaws of a Rottweiler or something. Now, its claws is where it gets really dangerous. It's a +4 to hit with 2d4 +2 slashing damage. However, if the target is a creature other than an elf or undead, it must succeed on a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or be paralyzed for 1 minute. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself. Now, here's the thing. I know I crapped all over the Deep Dragon Wyrmling because it was a saving throw of 11. However, that was for a breath weapon, okay? That was a 15-foot cone. That was a dragon's breath. It should have had a higher DC than that. The Ghoul, on the other hand, with that DC being based off a claw attack, I like it being somewhat low. It doesn't have to be a DC 14 or higher to be able to have some kind of danger to it. This is not supposed to be something that is almost impossible for the party to successing against, right? This is the penalty for not doing well. And the fact that it gets paralyzed for 1 minute or until you can succeed that saving throw at the end of each of your turns subsequently until that 1 minute goes by, and everything is going to be advantage, and all attacks are going to be an automatic critical, That's crazy. Screw throwing another claw attack at them. Once they're paralyzed, just bite for a critical on 2d6 plus 2. And it's a cool creature. Honestly, it is a cool creature. I think I'm going to have to put it around Chris Pratt. It's just got that homely sense. It's simple. It's direct. It doesn't have a whole lot going on for it. And if you fail that DC 10 Constitution saving throw, then you're screwed, especially at lower levels. Because you'd think a third level fighter, or heck, even a third level barbarian, if he maxes out his Constitution and rolls a 12 on his 2 subsequent health rolls, he's only going to have a maximum health of, let's see, it'd be 36 and 15, 54. It'd be 54 health. 2d6 plus 2 for a bite. Average of that's probably going to be around 8. However, if they fail the Constitution saving throw for some reason, let's just say they nat 1 the saving throw. If they fail that Constitution saving throw and they are unable to make that saving throw for at least 3 more rounds, then that is 3 attacks. If that ghoul is staying focused on them, that is 3 attacks at a 2d6 plus 2 critical. The frontline tank, if they fail that Constitution saving throw, is no longer the frontline tank. You don't have to worry about sending the ghoul after somebody in the back that's casting spells. You send them straight up to the ones that are dumb enough to get close. And I use the word dumb lightly here because I know if you're a martial class and you don't have a ranged weapon, you kind of have to do that, but you know what I mean. This guy is cool. It's simplistic. It's straight to the point. There's nothing overly special about him, but he's not weak either. Realistically, the only thing I would like to see on him is a little bit more health, because 22 health is pretty low. I'd like to see him somewhere around, I know it's only 4 more, I'd like to see him around 26. And if I was to put him into my game, that's probably where I'd put him, is around 26 health. Well, let's move on to the final creature if I have to sit through this ad on my phone, so do you guys. So, the last creature on this list is an Iron Defender once this ad goes away, I swear. What's the point in having a... Why would this app even have ads to begin with? It doesn't make any sense. An Iron Defender. This is another canine-like creature, okay? So it is in this picture on the Bestiary app. It's a construct dog. Kind of honestly looks like a Doberman Pinscher from the body style and the shape of the jawline and everything. So it's a 17 AC and a hit point of 30. This thing's pretty strong. It's got a perception of +3 and a stealth of +4, immune to poison, immune to exhaustion and poisoned. Has dark vision of 60 feet and a passive perception of 13. Not overly aware of its surroundings, but good enough. Now, it understands the language of its creator, but it can't speak, just like the other constructs we just covered. The Defender has advantage on perception checks from keen senses. That's something it's borrowing from the wolves or any kind of other canine that might have that. It's also got telepathic bond. While the Defender is on the same plane of existence as its master, it can magically convey what it senses to its master, and the two can communicate telepathically. That's awesome. That's just straight up awesome. If you were a artificer and you were able to talk your DM into allowing you to make one of these things, send it in with its +4 to its stealth, and it can telepathically communicate with you because it speaks the language that you speak, and it can telepathically communicate everything it's seeing and relay that information back to you. Now, its attack, on the other hand, its action is a +5 to hit with 1d6 +3 piercing damage. Now, if it targets a creature, it has to succeed a 13 strength saving throw or take an extra 1d6 piercing damage and be grappled. and it can only have one creature grappled this way at one time. Once again, it's not the highest saving throw. It's higher than the deep dragon Wyrmlings breath weapon, surprisingly. However, the 13, specifically at lower levels, is good enough to be able to pass some stuff up. Especially if you were going up against a some kind of spellcaster, and it's able to lock that down, doing damage, doing extra damage, and then grappling them to where they can't move. This guy is going around the number 6. It's better than average. It's not the greatest, but it's better than average. That Copper Dragon Wyrmling, on the other hand, at number 10, that's going to be the king of this list anyway. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's the first one I've recorded by myself, and hopefully I'll be able to improve at it the more I do so. But like I said in the farewell episode for Jeremiah, I'm going to start having some guests on as often as possible once schedules clear up and everything. So I really appreciate you guys sticking around, and I hope to be able to continue doing this for as long as you will allow me. And in the meantime, keep rolling high, and I'll see you in the next one.